gate. We in the end game. Portals are opening. We going into the Lions Gate. We in the end game. Portals are opening. We going into the Lions Gate. We in the end game. Portals are opening. We going into the Lions Gate portal, which I'll be doing a separate lecture on that next week. And you have a lot of walk-ins, which I was warning y'all about the walk-ins. I was warning y'all about all the rappers that will be getting arrested. I told y'all about all this before they even hit the y'all being raised in the internet phase. Unlike most of my peers, if you 25 and older, you really not raised in the internet. You know, you came up with it, but you still remember when it wasn't on internet damn near. And that balance of connecting this message to all levels, not just the elderly, not just the peers, and not just the youth. All three levels got to understand this because we in this together. We can't do it alone. You know what I'm saying? They got about between 15 and 13 days before all hell break loose within under the ocean and things start shifting. Before all hell break loose within under the ocean and things start shifting. Days about 2 weeks ago. You know what I'm saying? They got about between 15 and 13 days before all hell break loose within under the ocean and things start shifting. All right, so it's a race literally against time because the whole system of time is breaking down. The matrix itself is imploding. Why do you think you see so many celebrities trying to come out and come to the light with truth? And if they're not coming to the light, then they're just completely selling out. We've never in history seen this imbalance like that, this pendulum swing where...
Excuse that little dog you got there. We just right now chewing the meat, spit out the bones.
And then you got other celebrities that's just completely selling out.
Like he say that's not right. It's not gonna be
next level sellout type vibes, you know? Sellout type vibes, you know? Because people are choosing their sides. My wife, we was riding. This is why so many people are waking up because your soul knows this. My wife, we was riding early and she cracked a joke about time. She was like, babe, is that why we black people always be late to work? Cause we know, cause time ain't real. And she was laughing and we was laughing about it. And I'm like, yeah, she was cracking up. And I'm like, yes. We was laughing about it. And I'm like, yeah, she was cracking up. And I'm like, yes, honestly, babe, that's true. Because remember, you have a conscious and a subconscious. The conscious is a synthetic version of yourself. It's a copy of your soul. A lot of us we've already been cloned. All right? At a base level because they have given you a conscious. The unconscious is real. Notice when they say you unconscious, that's when you sleep or they say passed out. But when you're unconscious, you where? You're home, you're in the astral planes, you're in the forever. This reality never was fully finished. So they were able to alter it a little bit. Remember, we were attacked while still building up planet Kai. If you have black people, your so-called black and planet Kai. If you have carbon in your skin, so this is all your Latinos and your black people, your so-called black and Latino races, your so-called Hispanics, all right? We all have carbon in our skin, 9 ether beings, so we are dangerous. We are literally walking bombs. We are literally walking bombs. And this is why they already listed everybody as meta-human, because we are not human. We are superhuman. So with us being superhuman, because we are not human, so we are something beyond human, and they can't fully understand it, so they call it superhuman. Okay, this is where super girl come from and Wonder Woman, because they wondered about our women, or should I say our goddesses. They were in wonder, amazement about the shit they were seeing these Amazonian goddesses do, these Anunnaki goddesses do. So they made cartoon characters out of our goddesses and called it Wonder Woman, all right, or Captain Marvel and shit like that, all right. The things we did were incredible to them. So this is where the Incredible Hulk comes from, all right. We were doing shit that was deemed superb or supernatural. So this is where
we don't call ourselves GODs and GODs. You know, like he was just saying, it's best to stay humble.
Based around DEA. The comic books is all about your DEA. Science fiction is all about the DEA of the God race. So if you can fully understand that the whole secret, the whole time has been
talking about
the God species completely out of tune with their DEA, because once you tap back into your DEA, now you are walking into the God version of yourself, and this is where you're altering and you're commanding the elements, you're commanding nature, you understand the ocean, you understand the fire, the water, the wind, the trees.
DEA, aka DNA. This really is called DEA. They changed the name.
You understand that you are everything. You understand your connection to the Orishas. You understand principalities and the difference. entire book of Revelations is all about them revealing the downfall of their empire. All right, they talk all about what the fuck they did. They even call themselves harlots. They talk about how the whole world sat back and witnessed this harlot. And Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought with his angels. So they talking about right this now. The end game now, nigga, this big ass spiritual war that we are, nigga, toe to toe on the battlefield in, nigga. You hear me? 13 days, nigga. Shit already been starting to pay attention, but it's gonna elevate to another level because you got the Lion Days portal opening August 8th. Notice in New York they trying to do mandatory lockdowns when? August 8th. I ain't gonna never steer you wrong. You hear me? So, you know, just go read Revelations, y'all. You know what I'm saying? Just go read Revelations, you feel me? Just go read Revelations when y'all get a chance, you hear me? It's cold as fuck. I might break it down if I get time to break it down, because we in the end game, you know what I'm saying?
Explain the fifth dimension in detail. I have already discussed all the 11 dimensions in my previous video. You can find the link of the video in its description. Here in this video, I will answer many questions related to the fifth dimension. So now let me tell you what will you learn about the fifth dimension in this video. You will understand what we mean by a 5-dimensional space and how we can visualize the 5-dimensional space geometrically. The video also answers why the researchers think that there must be a 5th dimension and why they needed the 5th dimension. After watching the video, you will know why the 5th dimension cannot be observed directly by humans, and most importantly, what is the scientific evidence for the existence of the 5th dimension. You will also get familiar with the supernatural powers that a person living in the 5th dimension would have, and what are the limitations of the 5th dimensional world that are not present in the dimensions higher than the 5th dimension. Friends, now I will answer each of these questions about the 5th dimension one by one. So keep watching the video till the end. Let's start with what we mean by a 5-dimensional space. As clear by the name, a 5-dimensional space is a space having 5 dimensions. But you may ask, what is a dimension? Actually, dimension of a point is defined as the minimum number of coordinates that are needed to specify that point in it. So, to represent a 5-dimensional object, we need 5 coordinates. For example, to represent a straight line, we need only 1 coordinate, that is length. Therefore, it is 1-dimensional. To represent a surface, we need 2 coordinates, length and width. So it is 2-dimensional or 2D. In the same way, 3 coordinates are needed to specify a solid object. These are length, width, and height. Therefore, it is called a 3-dimensional or 3D object. Similarly, 5 coordinates are required to represent a 5-dimensional object. Now, I will show you how we can represent a 5-dimensional space geometrically. On the screen, you are seeing a dot. This is the geometrical representation of the 0th dimension. 0th dimension does not have any length, width, or height. Now let me tell you one important concept. To get the next higher dimension, all we need to do is to double the number of points. Therefore, by doubling the number of points, we have now 2 points, and this is the geometrical representation of the first dimension. By joining these 2 points, we get a straight line, which is nothing but a 1-dimensional object having only 1 dimension of length. Now again double the number of points to get to the next higher dimension, that is the 2nd dimension. Therefore, in the 2nd dimension, we have 4 points, and by joining these 4 points, we get a plane surface, which is a 2-dimensional object. For representing a 2-dimensional object, 2 coordinates, length and width, are required. Now, on doubling the number of points again, we enter into the next higher dimension, that is the 3rd dimension. Here we have 8 points. We can join the points as shown here to get a 3-dimensional solid object. We need 3 coordinates here, length, width, and height, to represent the 3-dimensional solid object geometrically. To go to the fourth dimension, double the number of points once again. This time we have 16 points. As you can see here, this four-dimensional structure is created by joining the respective points of two 3D structures. Now, if we again double the number of points that are present in the four-dimensional structure, we get a structure of next higher dimension, that is the fifth dimension. You can count that this five-dimensional structure has 32 points. On joining these points as indicated in the video, we get a five-dimensional structure. So friends, this is the way how we can represent a five-dimensional structure geometrically step by step. Now I will tell you why the researchers believe in the presence of the fifth dimension and why they needed the fifth dimension. Actually, researchers wanted to develop a theory that unifies the four fundamental forces in nature, which are electromagnetism, gravity, strong and weak nuclear forces. For this, they needed a five-dimensional space. In 1921, a German mathematician, Theodor Kaluza, and Swedish physicist Oskar Klein independently developed a theory known as the Kaluza-Klein Theory. The Kaluza-Klein Theory used the fifth dimension for unifying two fundamental forces in nature, gravity and electromagnetic force. But later it was found that their approaches were partially inaccurate. Now we will see why the fifth dimension cannot be observed directly by humans. Klein suggested that the fifth dimension would be rolled up into a tiny and compact loop, and this loop is on the order of 10 raised to minus 33 centimeters. Under this reasoning, Klein envisioned light as a disturbance caused by rippling in the higher dimension, which is just beyond the perception of humans. To make it more simple, let's take a simple analogy. Suppose there is a fish in a pond. When it rains, ripples are created in the water of pond because of the raindrops. But the fish present in the water can only see shadows of ripples across the surface of the water. Although the gravity and electromagnetic forces seem unrelated, but introduction of the fifth dimension can help in finding connection between these forces. Later, the idea of superstring theory and supergravity provided a strong support to the Kaluza-Klein theory. Actually, according to the superstring theory, everything in the universe is made up of tiny vibrating loops known as strings, and these strings vibrate in 11 dimensions. Therefore, it made the scientists believe that there are at least 11 dimensions in the universe. Hence, Kaluza-Klein theory suggesting 5 dimensions of space was supported by the superstring theory. Now I will discuss what is the scientific evidence for the existence of the fifth dimension. Although we cannot directly observe the fifth dimension, but it is possible to record indirect evidence of existence of the fifth dimension. It has been made possible by the Large Hadron Collider (LHC). But how does it work? Actually, when the subatomic particles collide in the Large Hadron Collider, new particles are produced, including graviton. It was found that the graviton escapes from the fourth dimension and leaks off into a five-dimensional bulk. Next, we will see the supernatural powers that a person living in the fifth dimension would possess. A fifth dimensional being would have all the powers that a lower dimensional being has, along with many extra capabilities. A being of 5 dimensions would be able to control time as per his wish. He would be able to move in any direction in time, past or future. It would be possible for him to be present at different locations simultaneously. The 5th dimensional being would be able to choose different career paths or jobs at the same time. For example, he may choose the professions of a doctor, an engineer, and an artist simultaneously. Actually, parallel universes exist in the 5-dimensional space. Therefore, in 5-dimensional space, you may have different self-versions of yourself in parallel universes. Your different self-versions would have separate timelines, so they will live their lives independently. Lives of different versions of yourself in different universes having separate timelines will be based on cause and effect. It means their lives will be based on the decisions made by your self versions living in different universes. Now, we will discuss the limitations of the fifth dimensional world. One major limitation of this dimension is there are no shortcuts between the timelines. You cannot jump directly from a point on one timeline to another point on other timeline. It means if you wanted to meet your self version living in another parallel universe, then you cannot meet him directly. As I have already mentioned that the fifth dimension is based on cause and effect. Therefore, to meet your another self version, you will have to go to the point of cause in past on the timeline. But the dimensions higher than the fifth dimension are free from this limitation. There are shortcuts between the timelines in higher dimensions. It means shortcuts are possible between the timelines in the dimensions even higher than the fifth dimension. I will explain this with the help of a simple example of changing marriage decision. So I am taking here an example of fourth dimension, and I will use the same example to explain you the fifth and sixth dimensions also. And this is a very interesting example. Suppose this is the timeline of your life, and these are the 2 points in time. T1 is the present time of your life, and T2 is the time point in past where you made the decision to get married. As we are three-dimensional beings, so we do not have control over the time dimension. We can only control three dimensions. Therefore, we cannot go back in time and change this decision of our marriage. But if we are fourth dimensional beings, as we are discussing here fourth dimension, then it is possible for us to go back in time from time T1 to point T2 on our this timeline and change the decision to marry another girl. You may change your decision and you can marry another girl at this point and start your new life, start your new timeline. But one thing you should notice here is that since no parallel worlds exist in the fourth dimension, therefore we can live with only one wife at a time. It means we cannot have two wives, or we cannot have two worlds, separate worlds, where we are living with two wives. Okay, if we change the decision of marrying a girl, then this life will be over. Okay, no parallel universes. Parallel worlds exist in the fifth dimension. But one limitation of this dimension, as I have already discussed, is there is no shortcuts between the timelines. Okay, I will explain you. Here is the old example: T1 time, present time, T2 where we change the decision. And in the fifth dimension, we can go back in time at time T2, change the decision of marrying another girl, and we will have our new wife. So this is another timeline. But the main difference is here we can have both worlds. We can have parallel worlds where in the one world we are living with our new wife, and in the old world or in another parallel universe we are living with our old wife. Okay, this is that timeline and this is new wife timeline. Okay, so two parallel universes going differently, and we can live with both the wives at the same time. But there is one limitation with this. What is this? If you are at this point with new wife, you have two versions, actually two separate versions of yourself in these two worlds, and one version having this new wife. You want to meet your another self version in another world who is living with the old wife. You cannot go directly to this point. Okay, you cannot meet it. So what is the way they can use? There is no shortcut. Suppose this man who married to new wife wants to meet this. What he can do, he would go past in time at time T2 where the decision was made. Then on this timeline, it is possible for him to meet his self version. He can see himself with the old wife, and both of these versions can meet with each other. So now we understand what is the basic limitation. You cannot meet directly to your self version in this fifth dimensional universe. Okay, here comes the sixth dimension. In this dimension also parallel universes exist, and this is present time and married decision time. But one basic difference between the fifth and the sixth dimension is that if your self version wants to meet your another self version in the parallel universe, you can meet him directly using the shortcut. You need not to go back in time, okay, at this point where the decision was made. So it gives us more flexibility, and in this way you can easily jump from one timeline to another timeline without having any need to go back in time, because shortcuts are possible. So this is more powerful than the fifth dimension. If you liked the video, then please hit the like button and share the video with others. And for more such videos,